So I was just reading the ending, of the introduction by Clarence Miller to Thomas More's Utopia. So let me just go back. So first published in 1516. So this is an authoritative new translation of one of the most influential books in the Western tradition by Yale Noda Bean. This is a book on philosophy, first published in 1516. Thomas More's Utopia is one of the most important works of European humanism. Through the voice of the mysterious traveler, Raphael Hitlode, or Mr. H, More describes a pagan, communist, city-state governed by reason. Addressing such issues as religious pluralism, women's rights, state-sponsored education, colonialism, and justified warfare. Utopia seems remarkable. These are all currently important. Or at least these are very millennial topics. So Utopia seems remarkably contemporarily. So this was written in 2001, I think. So they're saying that Utopia seems remarkably contemporary, or means for the present time, nearly 5 centuries after it was written, which, in my opinion, proves how everything happening today has been planned far in advance and thought about deeply, which isn't the sense you get from watching news as your primary source of reality orientation, as is with the majority of the population. So Utopia remains a foundational text on philosophy and political theory. I'm gonna get some beer right now. Okay, coming back to the book summary at the back. Preeminent Moore scholar Clarence H. Miller does justice to the full range of Moore's rhetoric in this new translation. Professor Miller includes a helpful introduction that outlines some of the most important problems and issues that Utopia raises, and also provides informative commentary to assist the reader throughout this challenging and rewarding exploration of the meaning of political community. Communita. What Clarence Miller attempts and accomplishes here is a nuanced and textured rendition in English that says neither less nor more than the Latin itself. Nice. This translation is fluent, flexible, colloquial, even slangy in places, admirably reflecting the tone of the original. And more about Clarence Miller. This is a Yale University book. Let's get back to the discussion between Moore and H about Utopia. So H, Raphael, which means God's healer, and Hitlode, or the peddler of nonsense. He is on one hand a passionate analyst of social injustice, an intense and outraged defender of the oppressed, the poor, the sick, and the weak, a proponent of freedom from crushing toil, an enthusiastic promoter of intellectual pursuits. Damn, sounds like me. A supporter of equal rights for women. On the other hand, or I used to be, on the other hand, he is an advocate of inhuman social engineering. He is an advocate of inhuman social engineering, colonial exploitation, assassination, bloody warfare. I guess that can be said about both the natural and the artificial system, huh? Bloody warfare, ethnic cleansing, capital punishment for someone who commits adultery twice. I agree. He is narrow-minded, unrealistic, humorless, puritanical, stubborn, tactless, and, according to some of his critics, even self-indulgent and narcissistic. And yet, he is an energetic, credible character whom we do not find entirely admirable or entirely repellent, like Utopia itself. I think one reason H is made to be so likable is because he's promoting an idea, a communist city-state, which is entirely unlikable. So sometimes they make the heroes appear to be the good guys, and that's might be a strategy, I feel, being used in this book. He is always intense and intriguing. He asks and answers important questions, and however much or little we may like his answers, he makes us aware of the urgency of his questions. So nonsense is quite powerful indeed. Oh man, the way I got locked up one time, the first time I got locked up in a mental hospital, the guy who snitched on me finally, who was there with me when the cops came, he said I was peddling nonsense. Oh man, crazy. Anyway, I was talking some spiritual mumbo jumbo a little bit and making fun of him at the same time, so that can feel like nonsense to anybody. The way H speaks reflects his character and ideas, and some of the range and tensions of his style can be perceived even in a translation. H's sentence ranged from turbulent and often strained complexity when he is contrasting Europe with Utopia, to simple, straightforward ease when he is describing Utopia. When H imagines a session of the French King's Council and projects the advice he would give, he launches into a 464 word sentence, suspended, unrealistically intricate, almost interminable, and ends by asking Moore, "How do you imagine, my dear Moore, my listeners would react to this speech?" With wry understatement, Moore replies in 4 words, "Certainly not very favorably." Well satisfied, H takes a deep breath and soars off into another imaginary council session about raising revenues, this time in a sentence of 926 words. A syntactical extravaganza so convoluted that he himself almost loses track of it. This reminds me in my humanities class, when I took humanities 4 after I pretty much almost failed humanities 1. I took humanities 2 at a community college. One of my criticisms of my essay was I used to write too many ideas in the same sentence. So I guess I now have a knack for being too wordy with my ideas when I get in my ideas. Anyway, a syntax. Okay. So to H's concluding inquiry, Moore again replies with good-humored litotes and goes on to point out in 2 or 3 line sentences that because he's a propagandist obviously, and that the manner of advice is as important as the matter. Yeah, that's one criticism I recently got. The manner of advice is as important as the matter, because the matter by itself cannot be digested by the vast majority. So that's a good point there, if you're trying to reach the vast majority, which is, like I said in the previous book, the aim of propaganda. So nowhere else did Moore write Latin sentences that so deliberately go beyond what ordinary Latin syntax can bear. And H does this precisely when he brings the ideal kingdoms of A and M, his anticipations of Utopia, into jarring and irreconcilable conflict with the military and economic corruption of Europe. The 2 worlds, ideal and real, collide, and the ordinary syntax accepted by speakers of Latin cannot contain them. Yeah, some ideas are so complicated, it's true. You cannot really contain them in language. And languages, I really believe, is probably the reason propaganda rules the world, because language is created for the sake of propaganda and is definitely maintained for the sake of propaganda, as you learned about in 1984. So yeah, some ideas are really hard to communicate and can be criticized suchly. Surely Moore expected his readers to be disconcerted, if not totally flummoxed, by these marathon sentences. It is not so much that Hitler has lost his grip on reality. He understands French militarism and fiscal chicanery, or trickery, only too well. As the extensive commentary by Francis Surt will testify, rather his only reaction to real corruptions is to grip them in one hand and smash them into ideal solutions in the other. And the syntactic explosion leads us to the ideality of utopia. So he's claiming that H is a propagandist. As Richard Sylvester pointed out, H's argument moves from a firm grip on a past historical situation to a hypothetical revision of contemporary history, and finally to a totally aloof fabrication about, I guess, imaginary council on raising money and on the neighbors of the utopians. So another criticism of H is that, or his argument is that he connects the past, the present, and the future. In my opinion, that's a great strategy to convey the ideal and the perfect solution to a situation. But I guess human nature has to be dealt with as well, whereas the propagandist more writing SH conveys. When H describes his ideal commonwealth, his sentences undergo a remarkable change. They are predominantly brief, factual, straightforward, syntactically simple. Usually he is simply describing utopian things as they are, and they are mostly simple, whether it be the doors of the houses. There is no house which does not have a door opening on the street and a back door into the garden. Oh, sounds like this house. Awesome. Oh wow, so communism is real. Or the selection of candidates for ruler. For each of the 4 quarters of the city, names one person and proposes him to the Senate. Damn, how accurate today. Or the universal work at farming, or the color of their clothes, or the shifting of people to maintain uniform populations. Well, that's really present today in the nomadic society of the new millennium. So this limit of population is easily maintained by transferring persons from households with too many people to those with too few. Hence the promotion of divorce rate. Or the distribution of goods. Touche. Hit low day. And when it is distributed equitably to everyone, it follows that no one can be reduced to poverty or forced to beg. Ha ha ha, we don't need a man. We can loot any man we want. Ha ha. Oh shit. Or the lack of seeking for offices. Or the exclusion of lawyers. They ban absolutely all lawyers as clever practitioners and sly interpreters of the law. Yep, that's true. They know how to twist and turn, play them games, and make people burn unrighteously. Or their recruitment of soldiers. In each city they chose troops from a list of volunteers. Or their strict keeping of a truce. When they make a truce with their enemies, they keep it so religiously that they do not violate it even under provocation. I guess the enemies is the government, and being a soldier, you make a truce with the government. So they get to push you around, and you gotta say, "Sir, yes, sir," while they're spitting in your face. Oh man. Or their withholding of honor and office from those who do not believe in the immortality, which is good for young kids, I guess, who are spoiled, but gets tired real quickly. I mean, they had to, when I graduated from the Young Marines and went to the next level, the police academy for real cops, or wannabe cop kids, I guess, damn, we're about to be cops. Shit, man, they harassed me from day one, making it known they wouldn't tolerate my Yes. Oh man. Tore my shirt in front of the whole fucking squad. Oh damn, dude. Brutalized me for the next fucking weeks. Shit, man. I haven't run that hard in my life. Anyway. Hoorah. No Pain, No Gain. Utopia by Thomas More. And I just finished the introduction by Clarence Miller.